Morning drive to work. Good morning. Policing doesn't work. Topic for today. You have three agencies of protection, well, alleged protection, because the Supreme Court ruled that the police are not there to protect you. That's because they got sued for someone getting hurt, and they basically, the Supreme Court or whatever court it was, came back and says, well, it's not the responsibility to protect you. So I thought it was quite amazing. But the history of the police is, first you have the sheriff, you have the police officers, and you have the sheriff deputies, the police officers in the cities and some surrounding towns, villages, so on and so forth. Then you have the state troopers. The interesting thing about the state troopers, put my seatbelt on here, is that the state police started back in 1917. So I'm not sure if you saw, the anniversary of the New York State Police, because they were started in 1917. Isn't that odd? The country was over 100 years old, and they started the state police. Who protected us? Can you imagine? Well, I believe the state police basically is standing army for the governor anyways, because that's how backward the system is, and you keep allowing it to run that way. But the sheriff was the one of the first law enforcement officers, and it came from the shire. And the reeve was the person that kept the shire in order. Well, the shire turned into a county back in England law. Well, we're based off English law. A few people don't realize that our founding concepts of our law are over 800 years old. So it's not what the politicians write. The system of law is from the Magna Carta, and the court system is supposed to function that way and everything, including the jury system. It's that old. Just people don't know it. But the sheriff came from the shire reeve, the sheriff, which the county or the shire turned into a county, and then we moved on from there. So the sheriff had deputies and so on and so forth. But the problem with the sheriff, he's an elected by the county. He is legally deemed as the chief administrator of the law. So he has the legal authority to not arrest people, even if he thinks in his heart the law is wrong. So even if politicians say, go after him, the sheriff has authority to say, no, I think it's wrong. And there's history of the sheriffs across this country, even recently, of taking people out of jail. There's a case in Florida where the sheriff was removed from office from the governor. They sued and they won. The sheriff had to be placed back in office because the governor is not the master. The governor is not the king. I know you believe that the president's the king and the sheriff or the governors are the king, but they're not. We're just led down that path to indoctrinate you and so on and so forth. So realistically, the sheriff has the authority to really nullify a law, especially if the sheriff uses a grand jury, which is 800 years old too. But you're not supposed to know that either. No one's telling you. But so the sheriff is legally supposed to protect you because you elected him. He is the first line defense in you. But from history of discovering what I've learned, what has gone on is because the governments are stealing money from us through taxes, way more money than they need. They take that money and they, for example, here in New York County, New York, they tell the sheriff that if you don't enforce the laws we write, we won't give you $50 million. So it's kind of a form of extortion, crime, So if you don't do what we say and enforce our bad laws that a lot of times kill people, like this whole making HCQ, hydroxychloroquine, illegal when it's scientifically proven to help people suffering from coronavirus, that's a crime, in my opinion, about me. We have no sheriffs that have the balls to enforce our right because they're getting paid by the higher government. So the difference with the police is the police are contracted entities. They have to enforce even unconstitutional laws. They can't say no. So even though they take an oath to the Constitution, they can't go against it because they're paid under contract to enforce the laws. They're not in a legal position to protect your rights. And a lot of times they usurp your rights and get in a position where they do some pretty bad things. Small percent. There's good police, but the good police have to grow some balls and protect us from the bad police. That's the history, why it keeps on getting worse and worse as time goes on. But being the police are contracted to protect, allegedly protect, but they're basically tax collectors. I mean, when you get a traffic ticket, when you get a, City of Lockport here in our county has a zoning ordinance. You need permits for everything, even the side of your house if you want to do it yourself, which is really pathetic. The zoning officer shows up, which is a police officer, and will give you a ticket, and it's called a violation. So all these tickets you get on the road, for example, you gave up your rights. Even though you have a right to travel, they turned it into a privilege by you getting a license, by you signing your name to that driver's license, by you agreeing to certain contracts in the city or these towns where you live. You're giving up your rights to be ruled by the people you elect. And that's fixed too, because that's, very few patriots get in the office that want to protect your rights, because I feel the whole voting process is totally screwed up. But when you go to court, you simply ask them, is that a crime or is it a civil charge? And they'll say, well, it's neither. It's a violation. Well, violations don't exist under the Constitution. They're a contracted obligation. So you say motion to dismiss. Well, the judge will a lot of times say, well, we'll turn it into a crime. Well, how do you turn it into a crime when to be charged with crime? There's an indictment by a grand jury of everyday people. So obviously it can't be a crime. And it can't be a civil charge either, because who's the victim? Who's the injured party? There's none. So to be charged with a crime, there's only two courts that exist. One is a military tribunal, and other is a common law court, which is from the Magna Carta 800 years ago. Meaning that there has to be a victim, and there has to be a jury. You got to be judged by a jury, not a judge, because the judges are paid by the government. So if they don't charge you a fine, they don't get paid. Isn't that a conflict of interest, yet you keep on falling for the same old game? Here in town Lockport, I think their court makes $600,000 a year. And you think it really protects people? You notice that the more policing we have, the more crime there is. Because the policing and the attorneys that have manipulated the system, there's no accountability. You can commit a crime and get away with it and walk on the street. Where 100 years ago, little as 70 years ago, a lot of these crimes were death sentences. You sat in jail for a very long period of time, so there's no accountability. When there's no accountability, like we see with the politicians, they keep on committing crimes because they know they're untouchable. The criminals are untouchable too. But it's a system that he's evolved and has gotten worse and worse. So you blame it on a political party. You blame it on this, and they keep on feeding you this crap that has nothing to do with fixing it. It's because they've created it. They want to create division. They want to create this dysfunction to make you think that you need them, when in truth, they've created it. They've created this, made this virus spread. They knew locally, right here in the Buffalo hospitals, they knew viruses here in January. Did they mention shutdown? No. They were transporting students from Wuhan, China, going back to UB after Christmas break that were sick. And they were, the higher-ups in the health department in Erie County were telling people, don't talk about this. Don't talk, keep it quiet. Don't panic. Oh, yeah, they spread the virus. And now they passed laws to stop the distribution of medication that is known to help people. Scientifically known to help people. That's a crime. Well, I'm at work. Thanks for listening. Please like my channel, support my business, Mangello's Tire Service, Truck Accessories. I do everything computer diagnostics at a great price. Thank you. Bye.